Here, turn over means, like most phrasal verbs, turn over can mean several different things. So when I'm telling you that this is the meaning of turn over, it just is in this context because it does mean other things in different situations, okay? But turn over is like when you give something, you surrender something. Surrender is like, I give up. But when you turn over something, that's because somebody like the police or the government or somebody with authority, somebody in charge, wants something from you and you give it to them. You say, here, take it. Let's see how we use turn over in this kind of situation. All right, so here's a situation. The police discovered that John was in possession of an illegal gun. So the police think that John has an illegal gun. And the police said, give us the gun. They demanded the gun from John. And this is what I mean by surrender. It's not, I surrender. It's, here, sorry. That's what I mean by surrender. Okay, so how do you think the police would say, give us your gun? What they probably would say is, turn over your gun. Turn over your gun. That means give it to us. We're the police. Give it to us. So let's make a sentence. The police demanded that John turn over the gun. The police demanded that John turn over the gun. The police demanded that John say, here, sorry. Okay, so this is a separable phrasal verb. So let's take the object and put it inside the verb. The police demanded that John turn the gun over. The police demanded that John turn the gun over. Now, let's make a what happened question with that sentence. Our sentence is, the police demanded that John turn the gun over. How will you make a what happened when question with that sentence? What happened? What happened when? What happened when the police demanded? What happened when the police demanded that John? What happened when the police demanded that John turn the gun over? And here's the answer. He showed the police, he showed them his permit, his license. He said, it's not illegal. I have permission. I can have this gun. All right, so when the police demanded that John turn his gun over, he showed them his permit. That's a pretty complicated sentence, actually. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed them his permit. He showed them his. He showed them his. He showed him his. He showed him his permit. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed him his permit. He showed them. He showed him. He showed them his. He showed him his. He showed him his permit. When the police demanded that John turn the gun over, he showed him his permit. So let's make a basic yes-no question with John turned the gun over. John turned the gun over. How will you make a basic yes-no question with John turned the gun over? Did he turn the gun over? Did he turn the gun over? How will you answer no? No, he didn't. No, he didn't turn over. No, he didn't turn over the gun. No, he didn't turn the gun over. Let's make a why not question. Why? Why didn't he? Why didn't he? Why didn't he turn the gun over? Why didn't he turn the gun over? And the reason is he had a permit. He had a permit. He had a permit. He had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. He didn't turn the gun over because he had a permit. Let's try another example using turn over when it means surrender an object. Here. Lucy quit her job. That's our situation. and she worked at a very high security office. She had a special identification badge given to her when she started working there, but now she was quitting. And it was very important for her to return her special identification card to the correct person. How can we say that Lucy surrendered her identification in an official way? She gave it to someone in authority. Here's my badge. She turned over her identification. Now, because this is a separable phrasal verb, we can put the object inside the verb. She turned her identification over. Now, let's make a who to question. Who to? So this is who, ... to. Who did she turn? Who did she turn her identification? Who did she turn her identification over to? Who did she turn her identification over to? Who did she turn her? Who did she turn her? Who did she turn her identification over to? To. That's the to at the end. Okay. Who did she turn her identification over to? Okay, we can do it another way. That's the most typical way. But you could be very proper and you could say, to whom? To whom? How would you make that question with whom? To whom did she turn? To whom did she turn her identification? To whom did she turn her identification over? To whom did she turn her identification over? Now, let's answer the human resources manager. She turned her identification over to. She turned her identification over to the human resources manager. Okay, now let's make a yes-no question with that sentence. Did she? Did she turn her? Did she turn her? Did she turn her identification over? Did she turn her identification over to the human resources manager? Okay, let's say human resources manager, no. Head of security, yes. No, she didn't turn. No, she didn't turn her identification over. No, she didn't turn her identification over to the human resources manager. No, she didn't turn her identification over to the human resources manager. She turned her identification over to the head of security. Oh, wow, that's pretty long. Thank you for staying for that one. That's a hard one. Okay, let's go back to the story and see how they use turnover. Now, we learned that Bill is a glass expert, and he has a formula to create unshatterable glass. Remember, shatter is what happens to glass if it breaks. It breaks into 1 million little pieces. So Bill is a glass expert, and he has a formula for unshatterable glass. You cannot break this glass. And so the glass people on the other side of the mirror want this formula. And they want him to turn the formula over. They want him to turn it over, which doesn't mean which implies not to just any person, but to special people in charge, maybe somebody in the government, maybe the president of the glass people or something, or the police, the chief of police of the glass people. All right,